back our co-hosts from the first segment of the show, retired Admiral and former president of the Berkeley County Commission, two-star Billy Stubblefield.
Good morning there, Mr. Mario. Great to be here.
Great to have you, sir.
You're a nice host to say that.
Oh, that's kind of you, Bill.
Yeah. I'm a very kind guy.
The kindness is moving around the room. I'll bet it doesn't continue for too much longer. Let's also welcome back U.S. Army veteran Alonzo Perry, former aide to Congressman Riley Moore. Alonzo, good to see you, sir.
Good morning. It's nice to see you, Rob.
You switched chairs to allow for Norwood Bentley to enter the scene, attorney at law, former legal director of Berkeley County. Norwood, good morning to you.
Good morning. Good to be here. Thank you, Alonzo, for warming this chair for me.
I told him earlier I radiate, so
I like
it should be pretty.
Yeah, radiate. And also the longest tenured member of our crew, former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia, U.S. Army veteran as well, Mr. Michael Carl.
Good morning, everybody. Good to be here.
Good to have you, sir. Your tie, sir.
My tie says capitalist tool in fine print.
Very nicely done, sir. And also via telephone, Joseph Joey Torts ready. Joe, good morning to you.
Good morning, Rob, and good morning, gentlemen.
Great to have you with us. Are you in Georgia today or West Virginia?
I am in Georgia today, where spring has sprung. It is beautiful down here right now.
All right, very nice. So you're going to go with your issue in just a moment here, but first I want to welcome to those of you watching our Facebook live stream and also on TV 10 in Berkeley and Jefferson counties. We have ZDF TV here from Germany today, German Public Television, Stephanie and Nicole and Katerina. I think Katerina we can't see right now. She's on that ground level. Nicole is standing behind Bill along with Stephanie. And German Public TV, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, did a segment with us here looking to find out the opinions of Americans on issues that tend to divide us. And they dropped into this show, and I think it's safe to say we're surprised to find out that we were given both sides of the story as opposed to just one, and our audience reflects that. We have a diverse audience filled with conservatives and liberals and moderates and every flavor in between. So as a result, in regards with this whole Iranian war issue, they asked if they could come back this morning, and they are. So if you see folks walking around in the background on our TV feeds, that's who that is. And we welcome them here. But our leadoff hitter, as always, is Joe Ferretti. And, Joe, you are on the clock, ready when you are.
Rob, you mentioned that we aim to talk about issues that may divide us in this country, and I think there's probably no more prominent issue than the one involving the ongoing war with Iran. The first day of the war in Iran, the joint Israeli and U.S. forces were able to take out Ayatollah Khomeini and his religious lieutenants in the bombings in Tehran. Remember now, when that happened almost 2 weeks ago, almost immediately the Trump administration talked about regime change. In fact, President Trump suggested that he might have a role in picking the new leader of Iran. There was optimism about that the reign of the Ayatollahs might end, and nobody in this country would have been disappointed if that was an outcome achieved with this war effort. However, within days, Khomeini's son, as we know, was chosen to lead the country. He reportedly is more hardline and fanatical than his father. He has a pretty strong relationship, according to some reports, with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, which is the military arm of the religious leaders in the country. And more importantly now, as we look at how this war is progressing, we don't see any breakdown of the Iranian army. Yes, they've taken a lot of hits. They don't have air capability. They don't have naval capability. But we don't see defections coming from the Iranian army when things really break down. We don't see political factions forming in the streets. We don't see citizen uprisings that are occurring. There's really not a lot of evidence on the ground that the control of the Iranian people is in question right now, despite these bombings that have been conducted by the Israelis in the United States. And Iran, in my opinion, seems intent on just surviving, and its religious leaders seem capable of maintaining their grip on the country as we go forward. So you have to question at this point what's the achievable goals with this war effort. and counterbalance that with what is really the downside of this war effort. Global markets are in chaos. The Arab countries, notably Saudi Arabia, seem content to sit on the sidelines and absorb the blows from Iran. At home, just yesterday, terrorist attacks in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and in Norfolk, Virginia. We had the prior attack in Austin, Texas. So domestically, there's a lot of terrorism now that's coming to the forefront. The stock market is down 10%. And as a country, we're spending $1 billion per day on this war effort. So given these most recent events and given the fact that regime change seems to be beyond our reach in terms of this war effort, I have to ask this morning, how much patience are the American people going to have with this war? Remember, there was no real preparation with the American people by President Trump to get behind this war effort. There really has been a failure to articulate a clear goal and mission in mind here, and I don't think that's going to serve the president well going forward. So the question this morning is, how long are we going to tolerate this and be patient with it, given the externalities that we're suffering with this war effort, and given that we might now only be able to achieve a military victory versus a more long-lasting regime change? That's my question this morning.
All right, thank you, Joe. Appreciate the leadoff. And we'll start first with Mike Carl. Mr. Carl, you're up.
Well, it's obviously taken longer than Trump hoped for, but it'll be quite a while, because a significant part of the population there was suppressed and is still largely suppressed, and the shift away from the dictatorship group is not, hasn't happened as quickly as Trump wanted it, and I think we're talking at least several weeks, if not longer than that.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, after the Venezuela war, a well-known analyst said that was probably one of the biggest mistakes that could have been made, the ease of going into Venezuela. He made that argument by saying that Trump would convince himself that he was invincible. He could go in anywhere and replicate Venezuela. And the guy said at the time, look out, we're going to see this. And we have seen it now. Trump felt he could go in overnight to do something. Of course, there's been several estimates of how long it would take. The Israelis said it'd probably take 3 to 4 weeks. Trump initially said less than a week. But we've got another facet as well. The Iranians are doing a much, much better job of closing off the Straits of Hormuz than anybody thought they could. And it has been speculated that to get any real relief from the Straits are going to take boots on the ground. And this is one of the things nobody wants to do. So we're at a conflict now. We'll be able to get some freedom going through the Straits without the U.S. boots on the ground. We'll find out. The thought is that there has not a large swell of support from the Iranian government, nor are there from some of the other groups, such as the Kurds. Trump made the statement that we're going to bring the Kurds in to fight with us. Well, they did not do that because the Kurds went to him and said, we're not going to get involved. So we're finding ourselves fairly isolated on several fronts, and it's going to be a elongated war. And plus the fact the Iranians will declare victory, the longer they can make this hold out. The last thing they would like is a quick decision. So they're going to try to hold it out as long as they can. And comes back to Joe's question, how much patience do we as the U.S. citizens have?
Before I go to Alonzo, a couple comments in our Facebook session here, and I want to start with Stacy Burkett. She was the first one in. We also killed his father and wife, so he doesn't have much to lose. Right, there's that angle. From Damon Wright, it was interesting to see Secretary Rubio and Mike Johnson both say we attacked because Israel was going to attack, and we knew if they did, Iran would lash out at U.S. installations. So it was an imminent threat caused by Israel wanting to attack. And then Brad Knoll, boots on the ground, is the only way this can come to an end. How many American citizens want that? Cost in people and dollars. I'll go to you now, Alonzo Perry.
Well, the first thing is that this is a classic kind of prisoner's dilemma. And to keep it narrow in scope, I mean, we have to understand that Iran is not a rational state actor. And they have turned both their country and their proxies as both shield and weapon. And when we're thinking about how we're going to operate, we have to think about what they're capable of doing and what they have been doing. They've been striking other state actors. What that attack on Israel, where they were sending drones ad nauseum, was, essentially inflicting war. So this is not, some preemptive action that we're taking. They're developing over 100 drones a month, and our interceptors and the things that we're spending, we can only build maybe 7 of them a month. So there's a real issue in terms of, mitigating this conflict and trying to put them in a position where they can no longer strangle the country with, the access to the Strait of Hormuz. There's, 20% of the global supply of oil going through this region. We have to have a conversation about what do we want this to look like? Do we want to allow a country that is not rational to be able to obtain a nuclear weapon, or to harden their position into a place where they are no longer capable of being stopped from procuring a nuclear weapon? And what does that mean for the rest of the world?
Alonzo, here's a challenge to you from Stacy Burkett. Does Alonzo think the U.S. is a rational state actor at this point in history?
I do believe that the U.S. is a rational state actor, and I think that we are mitigating survival, but also trying to be in a position where we source, peace abroad, because that brings peace at home. Now, understand that, I am not one of the people that are in favor of this particular conflict. I would like us to be a regional hegemon as opposed to a global, police force. I'm not really happy about how the administration has tried to, make the case for this particular action. But to be fair, I don't see what other option that the administration has. I fear escalation. I fear that Stubblefield is correct in terms of, in order for us to bring this to a conclusion, that we may have to put boots on the ground. But I ask everyone, what other option do we have? Are you comfortable sleeping at night knowing that Iran has a nuclear weapon? It can't happen. And if it can't happen, then what other option do we have other than kinetic military strikes?
Norwood Bentley.
Well, I think these are all questions that we should have asked prior to the middle of this war. And we talked, you said a while ago that the war was costing us $1 billion a day. It's actually almost $2 billion a day. It was $11.3 billion from the Defense Department at the end of 6 days. That's almost $2 billion a day. The patience, the question that Joe asked is the American patience. The patience is already wearing thin. And I tell you, this is Trump's war. It's not our war. This is a war of choice. There were no exigent circumstances that caused Trump to have to go in. We weren't, our safety was not at risk. Trump.
I also disagree.
And
We all disagree.
No, we don't. We don't all disagree. I was going to.
Let's not.
Bill is disagreeing with the
Let's
disagreeer.
not jump to circumstance. Let's not jump so quickly on the Bentley boy.
Stubblefield's for the Bentley boy.
Finish your point, Nora. Go ahead.
The patience is wearing thin. This is Trump's war. It's not our war, and it's worn very thin from me, and from lots of my friends and lots of Americans. There's no end in sight. I think you're right. Boots on the ground is the only way we're going to end it. And it's not going to be pretty. And it's going to be months, not weeks. And the American public is not going to like it.
By the way, this just across the CNBC.com financial website, just released at 8:36. Fourth quarter GDP was revised down to just 0.7% growth, and January core inflation at 3.1%. Again, that just coming across on the CNBC.com website. Joe, I want to go back to you for a quick comment. I know Alonzo had a disagreement he had with Norwood he wanted to get to, but just back to you for a quick observation as we are in the middle of your segment here.
Well, I think we all can agree that Iran, they are malign actors and have been dating back to the 1980s when they drove 2 truck bombs into a compound in Beirut and killed 200 of our Marines. Every administration since then has had a game plan to do something about Iran. And every administration since then has chosen not to engage militarily because of the risks involved in dealing with that country. And we are now seeing those risks come to fruition. Look, it's clear that right now there's not a lot of talk about how to get that enriched uranium out of Iran, which is apparently one of the goals of this war effort, without boots on the ground. And so that's problematic. And there is the risk of this war spreading across the Middle East and elsewhere. Iran lobbed bombs into Turkey, which is a NATO country. Article 5 could easily have been invoked right then and there, and NATO could have got involved in this war. Iran lobbed bombs into Saudi Arabia, which has a mutual defense pact with Pakistan, which means Pakistan would come to the aid of Saudi Arabia if it was ever attacked. Pakistan could easily get involved in this war, and they have nukes. So this has been the reason why presidential administrations have avoided this kind of effort involving Iran. And here we are today now, we're in it knee deep, and the concern is that there are a lot of risks that we're going to have to dodge in order to pull this off successfully. I think the American people are sensing that now, and I think their patience will be wearing thin.
Alonzo, you had a disagreement with Norwood earlier.
Well, I have a disagreement because he's talking about the cost. And, I don't know what's more costly than allowing the brain trust of nearly suicidal regime, allow them to continue to operate. They have normalized hostage taking as a mechanism of statecraft. This is a group that has used proxies and trained them specifically to use civilian infrastructure in their combat. They have forever changed the way that terrorism has operated, and it's institutionalized. And so what the administration was doing was, with the understanding of history, it was the understanding that prior administrations have been afraid to make any maneuver to do anything, and so they tried this strategic action of decapitation. And at the end of the day, I don't think that the Iranians, especially the Ayatollahs specifically, and not the people, but the actual brain trace of this, I think that they only know power, and I feel like with an action like this, we were hoping that it would have a chilling effect on some of the operations that the Iranians are exhibiting.
Don't you think more than one person should have been in on the discussion, should have made that decision?
I think there have been discussions. I think that this is
not
something that
with
is
Congress,
long-standing.
not with the American people.
And that's not true either, because the Gang of Eight has been involved in
The
these
Gang of
conversations.
Eight
After the
is
fact.
not
After the
involved.
fact.
The Gang of Eight has been involved before the strikes. The rest of Congress was notified afterwards.
No, that's not right.
But besides the point, the people that are operating within this Iranian regime, there was no actual negotiation that was going to happen with them. They understand that all they're going to do is to harden their position, and this is why even the strikes now that are happening in all of these other Gulf states have been just erratic, because they have been allowed to continue to bake through the ranks of their operation what the game plan is when this conversation goes sideways. There's no other strategic operation that would be able to take place a year or 2 years from now that wouldn't have far more casualties and far more cost than what it is right now.
Bill?
Yeah, we're contemplating a lot of things. You started out earlier talking about the nuclear. The Iran's had the eyes on a nuclear weapon for many years. Obama did a treaty with Iran using sanctions, not military, using sanctions, and it worked. It worked for close to 15 years, based upon all international reviewers. Now, some arguments said we have not been able to see everything, but we do know their enrichment program was reduced substantially until that treaty was torn up by Trump. Subsequent to that, the Iranian enrichment program has increased.
Mike, Carl, you had a moment to say something a little while ago.
Well, I completely agree with Alonzo and completely disagree with the other two people at this table.
That would be Norwood and Bill, in case you're keeping score at home.
Yeah, that does not surprise us, Mike.
Right. But and one thing that I've noted that hadn't been raised, we haven't seen proof of this successor being actually alive or active, in the management, and who's the desperados who are managing this thing, are not. It's not clear at all. But that they wanted a nuclear weapon, it was pushed back, and then Trump has destroyed that capacity.
He obliterated it last June.
No.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
Well, I mean, he
obliterated it last June, and we've obliterated it again.
That's not true. He hasn't said that. And
Re-obliteration?
it's not true. It was not obliterated, but it was when he attacked them, because they were attacking Israel left and right and murdering thousands of Israelis.
All right, I got to go to Joe for the final minute here to wrap it up. Joe, you have 60 seconds to tie it up in a bow.
Well, I guess my point's been proven that patience is running thin. So I think that, look, the bad news continues to roll in. We had a plane go down yesterday. We've lost servicemen, apparently. Some are still trying to be found. The costs continue to go up. And the calculus that we as an American citizen are going to be undergoing here going forward is going to be a difficult one for the president. I fear that he didn't prepare the nation for war at the beginning, and it's going to be even more difficult for him to prepare the American public for war going forward, given the limited amount of success that we apparently are going to be able to achieve there. And so that's a difficult equation, and I think the president may learn why the presidents before him chose not to engage militarily with this country.
Joe, thank you very much. Great leadoff as always. We'll take our break for the top of the hour. Our co-host for the Friday Five, that includes Alonzo Perry, U.S. Army veteran, former aide to Congressman Riley Moore. Alonzo.
Good morning.
2 days in a row.
Yeah, 2 days in a row. I feel like I live here.
You stepped up the apparel today, too. Yesterday, your cash. Today, power tie. That was the 80s look, man. When I got out of college, that was it. The blue with the white shirt and the gold tie.
Yeah, I
That was what it was all about.
A West Virginia theme going on today.
It's because of international television. He wants to scoop the rest of us, so everything in Germany will be focused on Alonzo.
And let's welcome the longest tenured member of our crew, former tax commissioner of the state of West Virginia. He was in the Nixon White House, Mr. Michael Carl.
And I'm an Army veteran. That's how I was in the Nixon White House.
An Army veteran. Former legal counsel to Berkeley County Attorney at Law. He and Mike Carl were in the same firm at the same time, Mr. Norwood Bentley.
And a U.S. Navy veteran.
U.S. Navy veteran. Very nice to have you with us. Joe Ferretti by telephone. We just heard from him a moment ago. And now with, I should also say we want to welcome ZDF TV, German Public Television, back. They did a feature with us about 5-6 years ago. And they are back once again to get the temperature of the room in regards to Iran. And Joe Ferretti had that as his first subject. And the Admiral, Bill Stubblefield, 2-star, will follow up with that now.
We'll also have Iran as my subject, so the temperature will rise even higher, I think. My subject is going to be who is benefiting, if anyone's benefiting from this war, and I think probably there are. We've we had hoped there'd be a mass uprising as soon as we started the invasion of Iran. That's proven not to be the case. There's approximately 1 million folks in uniform in Iran, Revolutionary Guard, paramilitary force and the like, roughly 1 million. In Iraq, we had a similar source or similar situation. Those forces melted away once there started an invasion, but they did not disappear. They came back as insurgency groups on a lot of different fronts. We found the same thing in Libya. Over 15 years after Gaddafi fell, there are still insurgency groups based upon supporters of Gaddafi. We've talked about boots on the ground to stabilize certain areas. That's something we don't want, but something we found that we had to do in other countries such as Iraq and Afghanistan and the like. What we're finding, it's much easier to destroy a state than to rebuild one. What is more likely to happen in this case is open civil war with numerous factions working against each other. If that should happen, who benefits? Certainly China would, because China is one of the few countries that continues to get fuel from Iraq. They have free passage, they have open passage through the Straits of Hormuz. They also, if there is a war over Taiwan in the future, we're growing down our Tomahawk weapons, missiles, at a very, very, very fast rate. So they benefit. Much more so than China, though, is Russia. The price of oil in Russia is going up with the price of oil throughout. So they are really paying building up their war machine, their war chest, through the price of oil. Plus the fact the U.S. is diverting interest toward the Middle East as opposed to support Ukraine. Israel has long been fighting, 40-something years, a unified Iranian state. But a broken state without focused leadership satisfies Israelis' needs. Instead of if there's chaos in Iran and Libya, that improves Israeli security because they do not have to face a major state. So Israel is benefiting if we do have chaos in the Middle East. What about the U.S. though? The U.S. functions best with it and its Middle East allies with a stable, predictable government where all goods, money, and people can flow freely throughout. So if I look at this in total, of the various interests outside of Iran itself, the U.S. is going to be suffering more than anyone else. I think we need to find a way to disarm and defang Iran without pushing into a civil war, but can that be done?
Michael Carl, answer the question, please.
Well, it'll be difficult for the suppressed millions of Iranians who've been suppressed for many decades now to rise up in a unified way. I agree but I think ultimately that will happen almost because there's no other options, and I really question the continued viability of the remainder of the dictatorship that was running the place. So I agree that Israel is better off since they're not being attacked like they were. So, I think they're a major force in the region that will help bring together the reforming body in Iran.
Via telephone, Joe Ferretti. Joe?
Well, the costs to this country are readily apparent. We had over $1 trillion wiped off the books with the stock market declining 10%. We're spending $1 billion a day in blood and treasure. We have servicemen who are being maimed and killed, and we have a lot of money going out to defense contractors to replenish the supply of our own rockets and defense systems. We've got a situation internationally where sanctions just yesterday was lifted off of Russia regarding their oil, which helps fund their war effort. So if you want to see a winner in all this, it's certainly the Russians. All eyes are off of the war in Ukraine, and with Russian oil now being more valuable in the market, they're going to be able to replenish their military and their military effort against Ukraine, where we seemingly have taken a pass. And China, of course, as you mentioned, Bill, will also be a winner here. And finally, and I'll say this as a partisan, the Trump children will be winners, because apparently, amazingly, they had the foresight to form a company that now markets and sells drones. And you can bet they'll have a military contract in short order and even more money for them. So those are the winners and losers in my eyes.
Eric O'Rourke on our Facebook page says, peace through strength. Damon Wright, I thought we said no new wars and being the world's police. Wasn't that the campaign promise and what we're told it's weak leadership not to be able to negotiate? I could have sworn someone in charge said that. That refers to a Donald Trump quote from, I think it was 2013. All right, Alonzo Perry.
Well, I'm just floored because I didn't think that Bill Stubblefield would be here saying America first, no, don't go down that path. The isolationism of our friends here on the other side of the aisle, I think is just, abhorrent, because, America does have a role, in the world security. And yes, Israel is to stand to lose the most, but I think that we are underestimating what this conflict also does to our adversaries. China is not sustainable or cannot be sustained without Iranian oil. The drones and things that are being provided to Russia are now being used in this particular conflict, which is ending or at least slowing the capabilities of Russia's war of aggression in Ukraine. These things are interconnected, and I believe that the Trump administration understands that, by moving in this particular direction, that we are kneecapping certain efforts of Chinese aggression on Taiwan. I think that we are kneecapping the capability of Russia to, even though the oil is being bought, we have made other measures in terms of negotiating India from stopping procurement of Russian oil as well.
And eliminated the Venezuelan possibility.
And eliminated the Venezuelan possibility. So this is a full kind of circuit that we're operating under. And just to touch on a point that you guys had made in the earlier thing about, if we just followed Obama's nuclear deal, that was a parchment promise. And what it didn't do was stop the construction of Fordo itself. There was never a point of the Iranian regime to sit here and say that they are not going to procure a nuclear weapon. There was never a point where they were going to actually stop that building. Fordo was discovered, I want to say, in 2009. That's when the actual construction was taking place. And I'm telling you right now, if you put a centrifuge at the bottom of a mountain, it's not for peaceful purposes. It is not for energy. It is for war. And that's the direction that we've been moving in. And unfortunately, our foreign policy soft sentiments here are not capable of actually projecting peace.
Yeah, back from Eric O'Rourke. Here we go with doom and gloom like tariffs. You guys need to look long term. Stocks will be up big at year's end, and all our kids' futures will be safer long term. Not just Trump's kids. Norwood Bentley.
Who said that?
I think Abraham Lincoln said it. All right, Norwood, you're up.
Who are the big losers and the winners in this thing? We're all losers. The whole world is losing in this war. The Gulf states have all been hurt by both sides. Israel has been hurt. Iran has been decimated. The United States has been hurt and is probably going to be hurt even more economically. And if the terrorism continues to be a problem here, and it will, hurt more. Russia is right now a winner. China is a winner right now. I don't know, and we don't know. We didn't have this conversation before the war started. The American people didn't have this conversation. The United States Senate didn't deliberate on these issues before the war started. We didn't talk about it. We didn't have the opportunity. Trump pulled the trigger. Trump and Netanyahu pulled the trigger before we had the opportunity.
What would you want from this particular conversation?
What would I want from this our conversation?
Okay, so let's say Trump goes to Congress and he says, "I want to do this decapitation strikes in Iran." What happens when that information gets out? What happens when, if there were Iranian infiltrations in our security structures, that they were capable of hearing this? I mean, what would you want litigated, and what are you hoping actually would happen instead of a complete decimation of Iranians' capability to produce terror?
I don't know what the outcome would have been. I want we have a Constitution for a purpose. And the Constitution says that if we're going to go to war, the president needs to come to the Congress and ask. It's the Congress that declares war. That's what the law says. That's the rule of law.
There's no question
and
that this is a legal proceeding.
I have the floor, Mr. Carl.
He got you on that one, Mike.
And when we don't follow the law, when we don't follow the Constitution, it becomes meaningless.
On that note, I got to go back to Bill to wrap it up. You have a minute, Bill.
Yeah, two quick things. I did not say that Israel will lose the most. I said Israel has a chance to gain the most because fighting against the fragmented. Nobody wins on this. But the fact also, Alonzo, if you went to the American people, you would not say how the battle is going to be won. You go in why the battle is going to be fought. We never heard the word why. The how is what would protect the troops. The why is something the American people need.
All right. And Bill, you took a broadside from Mike Height's mom earlier in your segment there today.
I did not read it, but I'm not surprised.
After Eric,
Doreen's a lovely lady. But
after Eric said peace through strength, Doreen said, "Good thing the admiral's not serving anymore." You took one. The ship got sunk.
The ship got sunk, yeah.
She sunk your battleship. All right, issue number 3, Alonzo Perry. You are on the clock, sir.
So I'm going to shift gears a little bit from the Iran conflict, but it's still kind of in this defense space. So there's been a dispute between the Trump administration and Anthropic AI. And what I wanted to ask the panel today was whether it was fundamentally about safety and regulation or about ultimately who holds the power over the most influential information systems ever built, elected governments or private AI labs.
All right, Joe Ferretti via telephone. Go ahead, Joe.
Well, the history of this dispute is interesting. It started back last summer with Operation Midnight Hammer. Anthropic, which has the AI system called Claude, it found out that Claude was used in that operation. And it grew concerned because it knew that Claude was not error-proof. It was not perfected yet. So Anthropic went to the federal government and said, look, we're going to ask, since we know the most about our own AI system, we're going to ask for some government limitations here. We're concerned about, as all companies are, liability, because they knew their system was not perfected. The two things they asked of the federal government was, look, don't use our Claude system in autonomous war weaponry. It's not ready yet for that. And secondly, and I think we all might applaud them for this, they said, we don't want our AI systems used in mass domestic surveillance. Those were the two restrictions they asked of the government. The government initially agreed to those restrictions, and then somebody in the Defense Department pulled the plug on it and said, no, we're not going to go along with that. But what the federal government did then was what I think is in real question. Rather than just cancel the contract and go to another AI provider, no, the Trump administration had to put their foot on the neck of this American company and declare them a supply chain risk, which means now that Anthropic cannot do business with other AI companies or any company that has a government contract. That would be ruinous to Anthropic, which is one of the leaders in developing AI technology. So to me, it was simply a matter of a company as a government contractor and the federal government not agreeing as to how that company's product is going to be used. Simple enough. Cancel the contract. But no, there had to be retribution here, which is what this government too often engages in. And now it's retribution against another private company. I think it was wrong, and I think Anthropic eventually will come out the winner on this because they will develop their technology, and it will not be used in the federal government, but it's going to be used down the road to great success with other companies.
Admiral.
Well, thanks, Joe. Once again, you stole all of my thunder, so I'm here holding an empty bag of nothing. But yeah,
you already went. How did he steal your
already
thunder?
went, but but he's exactly right. I agree that the real villain in this is DOD blacklisting Anthropic and saying no government. No part of the government can use Anthropic software. And yet the Claude was proven to be one of the most effective, one of the most powerful of the AI tools available. So the blacklisting part, the retribution part, I think is a real unfortunate thing in the whole situation. But the market is speaking. Ever since this happened, Anthropic has been one of the real hot stocks on the market. A lot of people are buying it out of sympathy. I bought it out of sympathy. I downloaded Claude out of sympathy because I feel that the retribution aspect of the government was totally inappropriate. If there's something I can do to support Claude, I'm going to do it.
Mike Carl.
Well, I'm the least informed about this issue, so I won't say very much. But it is a scary combination where technology and then governance of values can be merged and so the technology of AI is the real amazing thing and scary thing to me.
Mr. Bentley.
Well, Joe Ferretti laid out the story so accurately and so well that I don't think I can add anything other than to say I think Anthropic injected into this some great degree of integrity, and the Trump administration stomped on that with their retribution and ruined a good tool of free enterprise, and they'll live to regret that, I hope.
Mr. Perry, back to you to wrap it up.
I mean, I think that this is just terrifying that people would have our foreign policy be dictated by Silicon Valley as opposed to people in our government. I think it's terrifying that we have the statutory and honestly the duty to go out here and make sure that private companies aren't transferring technology like this to our adversaries. I think that this is a crisis governance maneuver by the Trump administration. I think that this is something that scares me, but I think that it's not unprecedented. I think this is Lincoln's suspending of habeas corpus. I think that this is FDR with his his controls over certain economic models and things during those particular panics. I think that the Trump administration is making the right decision in this, and this is something I'm going to be watching very closely because I think it's very future-facing.
What about when Trump gave our AI technology to Saudi Arabia, part of that trade deal a few months ago?
And what about the law that bans for 10 years any restrictions on AI?
I think that, we've always done certain types of weapon sharing and technology sharing, but we never give them exactly what we have. We're always a step above.
Or are we?
Yes.
That's not what came out with the Saudi Arabia deal.
Well, this is the reason why Israel had to ask us for our bunker buster in, Iran. They had to, because they didn't have the technology, even though we gave them their first bunker buster, it didn't go nearly as deep as ours did. When we talk about chips in China, we give China certain chips, but we don't give them the advanced technology that we maintain. And so this is just a characteristic that's no different than that.
I'm not sure you're right on that, Alonzo. But you might be.
I'm sure he's right.
Yeah.
Hey, we got to get to the break here. And we'll tell you our sponsors on the program. We are produced by the sports doctor Colin McLaughlin and brought to you in part by Larry DeMarco and Company at Century 21 Modern Realty Results. Also by WVU Medicine, Berkeley Medical Center, Jefferson Medical Center. We'll welcome in ZDF TV, German Public Television. They've been with us all morning long filming the show for a topic they'll be covering on their TV station. They were here 5-6 years ago or so, and we welcome them back this time. Great to have them in studio. Stephanie and Nicole and Katerina have been moving about with cat-like precision amongst us 5 smelly guys, plus another smelly one on the telephone, and they've had to put up with heat in the room and everything, and they've been great, and we appreciate them being here. Welcome back our co-hosts too, Mr. Alonzo Perry. Good to have you back.
No, it's happy to be back. I'm happy Eric's defending me out there.
Eric's
Get him, Eric.
back.
Get him.
He has your back.
Yeah, I saw one of Eric's posts. I saw him. He was referring back to some events at the old O'Shea's, which predates your time, probably back when the Martinsburg Mall had an O'Shea's for ancient place of. Yeah, remember that? Yeah, Eric and I crossed paths there 30 years ago, probably. Mike Carl is here as well, longest tenured member of our crew.
Good to be still here.
Every day. Every day it's good to still be here. The Admiral Bill Stubblefield, whose camera right now is on Norwood Bentley.
Okay, we don't want that to happen, yeah.
The camera looked at you and Norwood and went, nah, Norwood's the better looking option.
Everybody agrees with that camera.
And I'll be a telephone Joseph Joey Torts Ferretti.
Good morning. Rob, I know you mentioned the malodorous members of our studio.
Yes.
I just want to let our German friends know I smell marvelous.
Oh, of course you do, Joe. Yeah, of course you do.
With or without the pants,
There's
Joe.
a reason you're on the telephone, Joe.
With issue number 4, Mr. Bentley, you are on the clock, sir.
Oh, thank you. Good to be here. With the President and Secretary of Defense touting the technological precision of our bombing in Iran and the overwhelming superiority of our mission to destroy Iran's military capabilities, while at the same time telling the population that we have their backs. What effect does the tragic killing of 165 children at school have on our message? Did that mistaken killing of so many innocents endear us to the Iranian people? Did it do anything to further American interests in that country? And worse, why have we not apologized for that tragedy? Why has the president not taken responsibility in light of the evidence? Why has he not said, at the least, "We're sorry, forgive us that mistake"? This is Trump's war. He did not go to Congress as the Constitution requires before going to war. There were no exigent circumstances, at least not expressed to us by the administration. This is his war, not ours. So let me say, on behalf of the American people, that we are sorry for the loss of your children, Iran. The bombing was a mistake. We, the people, apologize, and we beg for your forgiveness.
Mr. Perry?
This is, obviously catastrophic, it's a catastrophe. It's one of those things where, America doesn't do this. We do not target civilians.
Right. It was a mistake.
The DOD or Department of War's investigation is still ongoing as to how this could happen. But, one of the things that I did find interesting about the investigation in itself is that the DIA had this school, I guess, priorly listed as a strategic military site. And it goes to show exactly what kind of enemy we're fighting, where there is a group of people that are using children as shields. They are using civilian infrastructure as shields. They use religious institutions as shields because they know that we will take the moral position. And, I find it abhorrent that a lot of people, no one in this room in particular, but, people that are on some of these fringes will say that this is just something that America does. No, we always try to be better. We always try to have the high ground. We're seeing this right now in the flailing and attacking of innocents in Gulf states, hitting civilian hotels. We see this in the actions by their proxies, where they physically dismantled water systems over in Gaza, where the civilian population was being used to covertly move troops through these areas. They learned that from the Iranian regime, and that is who they are. That's not who we are. And that's why I do say, yes, we should probably apologize, but I think that we should let the investigation go thoroughly to see exactly why this had happened.
Mr. Ferretti.
Well, two reactions, Norwood, to that unfortunate situation with the school. Number one, I had no expectation that President Trump would in any way accept responsibility on behalf of the nation for what happened. That's not in his nature. I just know not to expect that. What really concerns me, though, is when he starts spinning his conspiracy theories that other countries have Tomahawk missiles, which apparently was the type of missile that hit this school, and maybe Iran did it to themselves without any evidence cited for those theories. And the latest reporting is that those theories are wrong. They are completely wrong. And, the president has to understand that when we go to war as a nation, not just as a military. He represents the nation as the civilian head of the military. He has an obligation to speak on behalf of the nation. And I would hope that he would do so in this case, but I don't expect it. And my second concern is that the bombings that are taking place, there is a real danger here that the interest of the United States may diverge soon with the interest of Israel. This is a joint effort in this war, and it's going to be clear, I'm afraid, that Israel has a different set of goals and circumstances that it needs to address in their military effort, and that may diverge from the United States. Bombing of infrastructure, bombing of historical sites are not going to win the hearts and minds of the Iranian people. So it's going to even lessen the chances more that there's going to be any kind of political solution to the problem in Iran. And I fear that that may be another problem on the president's plate going forward, is how to keep the interest of both the United States and Israel consistent. And I think there's a risk that that may not happen.
Mike Carl.
Well, I, of course, agree with Mr. Perry, but I also share Mr. Bentley's concerns, but I want to point out that he's totally wrong about the Constitution and the war powers situation. It's not, there's been no legal proceeding or ruling whatsoever that this war is illegal. And certainly the concern about the innocent people dying, I'm sure is great, and I would expect Trump to acknowledge it, but not, with his ego, not take full responsibility for it. But it is, in fact, to blame the Iranians for creating the circumstances that required, he would say, the attack on them to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah. Now, Mike's carried us down a path that we've discussed, and I'd like to rebut, but I'm going to stick with Norwood's question. No one is suggesting, nor would anyone suggest we did it deliberately, that we bombed this girls' school deliberately. But the consequences, from all indications, are it's something that could have been corrected, should have been corrected. The girls' school became a parent education center back in 2013, 12 years or so ago. The group within the Department of Defense that are charged to vet targets was reduced in size by nearly 90% earlier in Trump's tenure with Heg's concurrence or encouragement. So the organization, the group that was supposed to vet these organizations that would have corrected or would have updated the charts, did not have the manpower to do it. So we did bomb. And there is clear evidence it was a Tomahawk missile, and not an Iranian missile. It was a Tomahawk missile. We're the only ones that are using Tomahawk missiles. So it's clear evidence that we're the one to do it. It comes back to the point as why, and that was because I think we had inappropriate staff to vet the target. An interesting consequence of this is that according to the international law, any destruction of an educational facility falls under the war crimes category. So if you look at this, it could be considered a war crime. Again, the mitigating aspect is nobody targeted intentionally, but the target was done through omission, a lack of individuals to do their vetting job appropriately.
Back to you to wrap it up, Norwood.
Well, it was a tragedy, and of course I didn't indicate that it was done purposely. I'm sure it was not done purposely. I think it was reckless disregard, as we would say in the law, Mike, because it was clearly known. We did away with the outfit that would have corrected the mistake in intelligence, and we shouldn't have. We did away with that because Hegseth thought it was too woke a group, and it has resulted in the death of children and it should not have. And we, as a country, should have apologized. And the president's the person who should have done that, and he's not man enough to have done it.
Mr. Carl for the Anchor Lake.
I'm going to throw out a wide open question. If there were a referendum on whether we're better off today than when Biden was president, how would it come out?
If there was a referendum today to how we were compared to Biden's presidency, what would the vote be and why? So I'm going to ask you better than a yes or no, a why here on this one. All right, so Joe, via telephone, you're at the disadvantage. You go first.
Well, let me give it the answer to this question from the perspective of a Trump voter, if you will allow me that latitude. And I check my logic and reason at the door.
Go ahead, Counselor.
I think that I think there would be some disappointment comparing the Trump administration to the Biden administration. In one respect, the campaign that Trump waged was based on a couple primary representations. Number one, he was going to fix the border. I would dare say that a lot of people would agree that he has done that. He has secured the border. I give him a golf clap for that. But he also campaigned vigorously on America First, ending the venturesome wars that Americans engage in, as he says, far too often, at the expense of our treasury, at the expense of our security as a nation. He made that point abundantly clear throughout the campaign. And since then, he has come into office and, statistically speaking, has dropped more bombs in 1 year than President Biden did in 4 years. He has engaged militarily in South America. He bombed Nigeria on Christmas Day. He is now bombing Iran with no end in sight and with all the risks that are attendant to that situation that we have discussed this morning. So if I look at it from that perspective only, in terms of what he promised and what he has delivered, it could be easily argued that a fair number of people in this country would be more happy and were more happy under the Biden administration than they are the Trump administration. And that's coming from perhaps the perspective of many people in MAGA.
Interesting concept, Joe. Mr. Perry.
So Biden's legacy is the Afghanistan withdrawal. It's the Inflation Production Act, where he spun our country into economic peril. It's him not being capable of even knowing what his own administration was doing. The Trump administration has fulfilled a lot of its campaign promises through the One Big Beautiful Bill. It was the campaign codified, essentially. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. I mean, the benefits of those pieces of seminal domestic legislation are still waiting to be felt. And I think that nobody can say that Trump's foreign policy realism hasn't materialized in a beneficial way thus far. Obviously, we are in a moment where it is hard to try to see the forest for the trees, but I think over time, through the projection of Trump's first year, it was outstanding. And obviously, it is continuing to, go through a period right now of shock and awe. But I do believe that we are in capable hands, and I believe that Trump is clearly definitely 10 to 15 points above what Joe Biden would be in this referendum.
Mr. Bentley.
I think Alonzo is delusional.
Alonzo, do you feel like you are delusional in any way?
I don't. I feel clear-eyed about this.
Very good, sir.
I'm realistic.
I agree with everything that Joe Ferretti said.
I didn't think you were going to say Alonzo.
And I disagree with everything that Alonzo said through those rose-colored glasses. I thought that was very humorous, Alonzo. I really believe that if there were a referendum today, the American public, on that question, what am I better off today than I was under Biden? The answer would be no. I was better off under Biden, I think would resonate in a large majority. And all you have to do is look at the economy. Today's economy may be good for people with big 401ks and big investments. The people who are making their income from their investments. But it's not doing anything for people who are earning their income from labor. Those people are suffering. And they're suffering every day. They're suffering every time they go to the grocery store, and they're suffering every time they go to fill up their car with gasoline. And they remember who to thank for those things. They know who to thank. They thank Trump. They thank the tariffs. They thank the Iran war. If the referendum were held today, Biden would win.
Mr. Stubblefield.
Yeah, let's go from a hypothetical question, which Mike asked, to a realistic question. Since Trump took office, 27 seats have flipped from Republican to Democrat. 0 seats have flipped from Democrat to Republican.
You did your homework.
Yeah. So the massive evidence is that the people are flipping to the Democratic side. Now, the real answer will be in November. Does this trend continue in November? So Mike's question, hypothetical question, is going to be answered in real time in November. And the odds are it could be not what the Republicans are looking for, definitely on the House side, and there's some, and the Senate race had gone back in January. 27% said that the the Democrats had a chance of flipping the Senate. That was in early January, 27%. Today, it's 49% that the Democrats have a chance of flipping the Senate. The House, I think, will flip.
So your answer in a referendum vote would be, Bill, what?
I would say that if there was a referendum, it would be that the Democrats are not, or the voters are not happy with the direction it's going with Trump.
Mr. Carr, you get to wrap it up.
I cannot believe that the referendum would ignore the open border that Biden had permitted, and it created tremendous problems for America, economic and otherwise, and so therefore I think they'd still stick with Trump.
And I'll add to that too, in that illegal immigration is something that touches every sector of the economy altogether. It touches real wage growth. Blue collar wage growth has grown since ICE has started a lot of its deportation efforts. We've seen that in housing costs. Those are something that are affected by illegal immigration.
But you both are ignoring the numbers. You both are ignoring
He's
the
not
numbers.
ignoring the
Yes,
numbers.
you are. Now, if you look at the numbers of what the points I said, the people, they're flipping from Republican to Democrat. Those are hard numbers.
On that note, we have to stop. Sorry, we're out of time. You get final thoughts coming up, 8 seconds apiece. When you get to that, I want to thank Norwood Bentley, by the way, for filling in the John Doyle chair, which is what it will be afterward. Great job, Norwood. Alonzo filling in the John Gilstrap vis-a-vis Mike Height seat. Mike Height is back next week, and we are back in 2 minutes with final thoughts. There we go. That's the better music. Joe Ferretti, final thoughts. 8 seconds, go.
With the legislature concluding tomorrow, I look forward to discussing the swings and misses next week.
Good stuff. Norwood Bentley, go.
This has been like a return to work from retirement.
Mr. Stubblefield.
I just hope ZDF film crew got my good side.
I only got good sides. Mr. Carl.
Someone wearing a tie that says capitalist tool, I say, God bless America.
Mr. Perry.
Everyone have a great weekend.
Man, you guys were efficient. There's 20 seconds to spare here. Usually the last guy in the seat gets squeezed out. Well done today. Thank you for ZDF TV for being here today as well. The Dave Ramsey program is next. This is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg and TV 10. We'll talk again in 70 short hours.